Have you ever felt like you have everything under control and then something happens that you could have never planned for? How could you plan for every possible situation that could happen? You can't. Asking what didn't go as planned can provide lessons for future use. We'll discuss that and more on this edition of today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Well, clearly, one of the things that didn't go as planned today, as Bob disappeared right as we were about to start the show. So now he's back. Welcome back, Bob.
I have no idea what happened. Very, very interesting, but this is one of the joys, and I wanted to do this program from a remote location because this is when we have the most likely not as planned. So I owe you a do. So you got that.
Man, you got to start holding that camera still because I'm getting dizzy watching it bounce all over the place.
Okay, I won't move it anymore. It's going to stay right there.
Fair enough.
So how are you today?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
I've had better days, but that's okay. I managed to do something to my ankle yesterday that was unexpected, and now I'm dealing with a little bit of pain. I think I sprained it, but otherwise I'll be okay.
Well, I'm sorry to hear about your ankle, and I'm sure you'll be okay. You'll figure it out, right?
It'll give me an excuse this year for why my golf swing's lousy. So,
one sprained ankle for the whole year? You're going to use that excuse?
You've seen me play golf.
Yeah. Well, I also know that a sprained ankle is not going to last the entire year. So that's not likely to benefit it.
All right.
All right. Anyhow, welcome everyone to today's Antidote, our daily broadcast and podcast, where we will have a conversation today around our topic. Our topic this week is lessons learned. And today we are going to talk about the question, a great question to ask yourself, one of the three key questions. What didn't go as planned? And we'll get to that in just a minute. So if you have thoughts or ideas that you'd like to share around that, please feel free to put it in the comments. If you happen to be watching our broadcast on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or
LinkedIn Live.
Yes. Please feel free to share. We love to have your comments. They enhance our show, and someone might just exactly be looking for what you have to say. If you happen to be listening to the podcast, sorry you can't comment, but you can always share it with others. It's a great way to share concepts and ideas with people we care about or that we think could add benefit to. And we also would love it if you would rate our show. How can they rate our show, Bob?
5 stars.
5 stars will help. Yes, that'll help us find or help others find the show. So with that in mind, we look forward to your input in what's going on. And we will start our show like we always do with our celebrations. What are you celebrating today, Bob?
I'm celebrating the marvelous medical care that I'm lucky enough to have in the Baltimore area. I am testing medical people in a couple ways in the last couple days, asking them to do things on very short timelines. And because I've developed relationships and because they appreciate me and value what I'm trying to do, they've been really gracious. One doctor has scheduled 2 appointments outside of her regular hours. Another doctor has done a specialty thing for me, and a third doctor is moving a couple things around to accommodate me. So we take for granted the medical care we can have access to, but I will tell you, I am blessed with great medical care.
Excellent. It's a great celebration. So mine is that you remember the other day you sent me, I think it was a message. I don't think you said this. Like, you ought to do a TED Talk about being a renegade.
Yes.
And it was in my mind or whatever. I hadn't really thought about it that much until this morning. I woke up and it was early. I kind of woke up with these thoughts going on in my head. And I pretty much, I think, wrote my TED Talk about being a renegade in whatever. It's got a lot of polishing to do. And at the same time, I think that it tells the story of the journey of a renegade that I think might be one that others want to hear. So I'm celebrating the fact that I chose to actually wake up, start typing rather than just let it sit in my head, that I actually put it down on paper. So that's my celebration for today.
That's
now I just
awesome.
have to take the next steps and find a TED Talk place where I could give it.
Oh, they're all over the place.
I know. So I just have to find one.
Some of the local colleges have them. Some of the communities, I have a couple of names of people. We'll get you there.
All right. Thanks. So that's my celebration. So since Bob is in the car, he's mobile. He doesn't have his book with him. This amazing book, The Renegade Way. It'll be up to me to pick our quote of the day from The Renegade Way for others. So I'm just going to pick a page.
Pick a page.
And I'm going to pick it from keeping the focus clear. The more focused we are with who we serve, the more likely people are to help us find those people. Our clarity makes it easier for people to consider acting. They clearly know what you want, so they can attempt to help you obtain it.
Wow. That's kind of thoughtful. Oh, wait.
Goes along with your idea of thanking the medical care, right? They knew what you needed, and they're there to support it. So that is.
And I developed relationships with them over the years.
Correct.
Yes. I've been accommodating of them when they've needed to do things to, when they call and say, we can't do the appointment today, it's like, okay, that's fine.
And you've also paid them, or the insurance company paid them.
Insurance company has paid them, yes, handsomely.
Yes. Yes, indeed. All right.
All right, well, I'm excited about our topic.
Do you want me to give a little intro, or do you want to just dive into it?
No, you can give an intro. Go ahead.
So our topic this week is about lessons learned. On Monday, we talked a little bit about why they mattered. Yesterday, we talked about the first key question to ask, what went well. So today, we're going to dive into what I think is the most difficult question for people to figure out, because I'm not sure they always think about it the same. But I'll hold on to that thought until you have a chance to share your thoughts on the question of what didn't go as planned.
My first thought is most of the people, when I first introduce them to this idea, look at all the negatives. So that, I stuttered when I was speaking, or I didn't answer their question right, or I fumbled the pricing, or I didn't give them the paper I was supposed to leave with them, or my pen didn't work, or I forgot to take notes. And those are all useful things to gather, but I think that question is more about what were the unexpected things that happened. So for instance, how many times have I been out of my office and we've done this program and the internet has flaked out?
A couple.
Probably almost every time. You would think that would suggest that there's an issue there, and that I would be wise enough at the end of one of these to go, you know what, Tom, I really need to figure out a different internet solution if I'm going to be remote. And, that would be the outgrowth of thinking about what didn't go as planned. But sometimes I think we're reluctant to talk about that with ourselves because we move to the negative. And I think not planned it can be a positive. Hey, I wasn't expecting people to be that engaged in the discussion. I wasn't expecting that when I gave a sales presentation a month ago that I used a whiteboard and it really worked. That wasn't expected. It was something I was going to try, but I was like, wow, that really worked well. And I think that's the other part of it is what didn't go as expected could be a positive thing, not just what went really poorly. Because I think we're easy to find the things that go wrong. I don't have any struggle with finding what goes wrong. I have a little more of a struggle with going, wow, I didn't expect that to work that way. But now that I think about it, that's really interesting. And that thing that worked better than you expected or differently than you expected, often leads to the opportunity to get even more opportunities because you get better things coming. Does that make sense?
It does.
I think I
It
talked
does.
myself into a circle.
Well, we do that sometimes on this show. Didn't plan it. Sometimes it just happens. So I think I would agree with a lot of what you said. And I think that, I've heard people when they're trying to review what happened, when they're trying to learn some lessons or try to understand the results they received, typically they go with, okay, what went well? The next question, though, usually is what didn't go well. And I think that just leads to judgment about the results rather than trying to define and understand it. And I think, so often what didn't go well are things that are completely out of our control. Somebody else's beliefs, perspective on the experience that they had or the knowledge that they gained. We can't control that. And I think that so there are a lot of things that we can't control that we can focus on that we could be differently prepared for. So like with your internet, your example is true in that, yes, there have been some challenges. And every time there are challenges, you usually the next time talk about how you've done something differently to try to address those. So rather than being out in the middle of nowhere, you've driven to a place that would seemingly have stronger internet. So you've made an attempt to learn from that and then move forward to figure it out. I've been at lacrosse games where the clock has gone out. You can't plan for that. Could never know that was going to happen. It's not something that is right or wrong. It's just something that happened. And so while I'm not prepared for it in the moment, I could at least consider, all right, if this happens again, what would I do differently to manage the situation? And I think that sometimes that's the hardest question because we want to think of negatives, positives, rather than just here's what happened. And I cannot control that at all. Although for some of those things, I could think about how can I potentially plan for it in the future so that it might not change. Like, I've had times when I've had directions to somebody's office. Doesn't mean it got me to their space. It got me maybe to a building. And then I had to figure out how do I get to their office? And, and I think that's one of those things that in the moment, there's not a lot we can do about it. Looking back on it, we could say, what could I have done? What was not planned? It was not planned that the building happened to be 3 towers, hundreds of offices. And how could I have known that just from having an address? Well, I could have looked online to see, okay, what is the view of it? Where is the parking? How can I best manage this situation to know about it ahead of time to then move forward? So I think that there are some things that when we think about them, we can actually create different plans to help us sometimes avoid those things that we didn't plan for.
Another piece of it, as you were talking, Tom, to me is that as we consider what didn't go as planned, we build a repository of experiences that we've had that it might not be the same thing next time, but it could be something similar. And I find as I've gotten older, so many of the situations I find myself in, it's like I dealt with this earlier in my career. It was a different circumstance, but the same surrounding issues. And so it's like I have more comfort. I think that's what you see with people in their 40s and 50s is they start to get really comfortable with like, okay, I've dealt with so much chaos in the early part of my career. Now I've got the body of experience that I can draw on when I need to deal with the situation. And I think it's the same thing when we ask this question. What didn't go as expected, what didn't go as planned, gives us that chance to really look at it and go, you know what? That wasn't planned. Like I gave a presentation one time and the fire alarm went off. And everyone left and my hour presentation got cut to 10 minutes by the time we all got back. And I couldn't get the PowerPoint to work because they were having issues. And so I just did it no microphone, basically shouting for 10 minutes, and it was fine. And once that happened for me, it was like, there's not a situation in a presentation that's going to catch me off guard anymore, because it's like, I dealt with that. You know, maybe there's something, but having that reservoir of knowledge that you can deal with it. Like if you dealt with the clock being off during the game and you handled that, that's no longer a concern to you going forward. I know what to do in that situation. I know what to look for. And we can't know what we don't know, right? That's the thing.
Absolutely.
So all these opportunities are chances to really learn, to gather experience, gather perspectives, gather knowledge, so that going forward we can add that into what we're doing. And that to me is what makes things more exciting and more real, I guess, going forward, is if we can take what we learned from today and apply it to tomorrow, that can be really useful. You know, like I realized that I sat for an hour with one of my legs crossed over the other leg, and my leg fell asleep, and I stood up and didn't know my leg had fallen asleep because I was so focused on what I was doing, and I fell to the ground. It's like, dude, why are you crossing your legs? That's the takeaway. And it's like, I've been told a million times, don't cross your legs. It's bad for your circulation. Don't cross your legs. You always cross your legs. Going back to being a kid. Here it was yesterday when I was like, now I see the crossing the legs could be a problem.
Sure.
That
and you can spend a lot of time.
Forward.
Yeah. And you can spend a lot of time judging that and thinking like, geez, I should have known that, blah, 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 all of the things that you have heard in the past. And you could spend a lot of time worrying about whatever happened. Or you could say, hey, you know what? This is good, just information for me for the future. And maybe if I'm going to be on a long call where I'm not sitting at my desk, I need to put a note that says switch legs or uncross your legs so that doesn't happen again in the future. It's interesting. My sister once told of a story where she was in an interview and that happened. Her legs were crossed. Her foot fell asleep and she went to stand up and went face first at the end of the interview. And, you know, obviously walked out and felt completely silly. Or, you know, and okay, so it's okay to have that immediate reaction and then think about, all right, well, what can I take from this? It didn't go as planned. I didn't imagine that I was going to be sitting still for that long. And now I know that if I'm going to be in that situation again, I need to either rotate my legs or sit differently so that when I stand up, I can have both feet underneath me and not fall down.
I'm glad I'm not the only person who's had that happen.
Well, we all have things happen that we never could have planned for, right? In every situation, there are things that are like, never could have seen that coming. And then when we add that to our list, the likelihood that those things that happen that we aren't planned for is less, or that we can, at least, as you said before, we've had some experience with it. So we at least know how to try to move forward, even though the way we move forward may or may not achieve the results we desire. At least we are able to move forward and not stuck in I don't know what to do. The fire alarm went off and my presentation is an hour. And now you're telling me I have to give it in 15 minutes. I can't do that. There's no possible way. And you could easily get caught in what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? It's only 15 minutes. What slides am I? That can allow you to stay stuck and unable to move forward and just say, you know what, we need to cancel this session. We just need to move on. So I think
what most of the other people did for that hour presentation, because there were 4 or 5 going on simultaneously. Mine was the only one that came back.
And they would forever blame the fire alarm, not their inability to say, you know what, I couldn't have planned for that. That's all right. What can I do? How can I act differently the next time it happens? And I think those are some of the key things about, again, not looking at necessarily the results, looking at what happened that I wasn't planning for, and how can I now leverage that the next time and be prepared for it in a different way.
So what's your one thing today, Tom?
So I think when I think about lessons learned and the question about what didn't go as planned, I think my one thing is I want to remind people, because I think it's very easy to do this, that what didn't go as planned isn't things that went better than you thought or not as well as you thought. That's not the question we're asking. We're asking, what are those things that happened that we're like, never could have imagined that happening? And what do I take away from that so that I can either plan differently as I prepare for whatever the action is, or I at least have something to call on to say this is how I could move forward, even though it might not be the exact thing that I was thinking about.
I like that. Try, and I guess my one thing would be, when I'm thinking of what didn't go as planned, I try to make sure there's at least one positive thing, because I want there to be a positive thing, like, wow, that joke I told in the middle of that presentation really worked well. I'd never tried that joke before. Or, wow, I finished 5 minutes early and people are really thankful to have that 5 minutes. Hey, okay. So thinking about it, not just the negatives. Well, this didn't go as expected. I screwed this up. But hey, this is what was truly unexpected. Not good or bad, just unexpected. And the positives can really help us go forward as well.
I would agree. I'm going to share a comment from Danny. He says, great wisdom today. I try and think of every fall and challenge as my Jedi training. Value in the new insight and insight I'm getting. Invaluable for next time, especially because the next time might be even more challenging. Reminding myself of that makes every F up a real gift, even if tough to receive that gift in the moment. Thank you, Danny, for sharing that. I appreciate it.
I was reading that comment as you're saying it. I was like, I can't wait till Tom gets to this.
Yeah, I was like, is that? Yeah, I wasn't really. And then I was like, oh, I see what he's doing there.
I see what he did there. Nice. Thank you, Danny. You made us laugh.
Yes. And if others.
I love the idea of training and helping prepare for even bigger challenges, because as we each go down our unique pathway towards whatever success looks like to us, the challenges do get bigger.
Or they get different.
I think they get bigger.
Okay. I'm going to think they just are different. It's a different challenge. Okay. Because I think my feeling is, if you think about thinking of it as bigger, you're like, well, yeah, I was able to overcome that small challenge. Am I able to overcome a bigger challenge? Maybe it's just a different challenge.
Fair.
All that's right. My thought. You don't have to agree with that.
No, that's fine. I like it. That's what I like about this program.
All right, everyone.
You want to bring this baby home?
Sure. Thanks so much for being with us today. We hope that you took away a nugget. And if you have one you'd like to share, please feel free to do, because we know that when you share it, just like Danny sharing the idea of Jedi training, for all of us who've lived with Star Wars, you can put that into your head and imagine what that might look like. So we encourage you to share that as well. You're welcome to go into our Ring of Renegades Facebook group and share it there. It's a great place, a great community where people are helping one another take their next step along their own unique pathway to success. So if you're not yet a member, it's easy to join. Just go to Facebook, search for Ring of Renegades, and then just ask to be a part of our growing community. So we look forward to seeing you inside that community, inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, or we'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, for our next edition of Today's Antidote. Have a great day, everyone.
Hey, embrace the renegade in you. And find something unexpected that happened. And learn from it.
I like that. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for listening to Today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.